right, let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of the Uber Farmer Cigar Deck Talks. And my rooster decided to come and talk today. It's awesome. He wants an interview, I think. So anyway, what are we smoking? What are we drinking, huh? Both of them kind of a little story to them. We'll start with the cigar. Let's see if we can get that to actually focus in there. I know the sun's kind of killing. Romeo and Juliet. 1875 Connecticut Nicaraguan blend. Very good cigar. Story about why I picked that one here in a little bit. And then from Black Rocks. Let's get that out of the sun. There we go. Black Rocks, the classic Pilsner. Again, both of them kind of have a little bit of significance. Because we're continuing on. Happy EMS week to all you EMSers out there. I've been calling this EMS month, because I believe we need a full month going. But alas, alack, we only have 1 week. There's that Pilsner there. Nice light beer. A little hoppy like I expected. Black Rocks loves to throw some hops in their beer. So let's go back in history a little bit longer as we look into this. Should I renew my license or not quest? And I want to talk about my training, specifically my EMT and my medic training. So, 21 years ago, it was September, early August actually, sorry, late August. I suppose I should go back before that. So, what got me into EMS? So, with the town I grew up in, it was kind of expected that every male should join the fire department. Which was pretty standard. Once you turned 18, you either became a firefighter. Usually you became a firefighter. But it turned out that the fire class wasn't going to be for another 2 years, but they had an EMT class open up. The EMT class was in Marquette, Michigan. Being sponsored by Marquette, Michigan. It was one of the first distance learning classes in the state. It was actually the first EMS distance learning class in the state. Because of that, the instructor wanted to kind of hit it out of the park. So he put a lot of extra hours and classroom time and clinical time because he wanted his class to pass with the highest of high marks. So anyway, my dad signed me up for the EMT class with the idea that I'd go get my fire later. So in mid to late August, I started my EMT class in 2004. I'm sorry, in 2001, excuse me. My dates all mixed up. In 2001, I started my EMT class, and then it went until May 2005 is when I actually got my EMT license. I've talked about my first call in EMS when I was an EMS student. That really kind of shaped me and formed me. At that time, I was also, I am very religious, but I was going to be confirmed. And I picked the confirmation name of Cosmos, who is twin brother, Cosmos and Damien, who were physicians who went and took care of the poorest of the poor and are accredited with being one of the patron saints of paramedics. So enough about that history, and that's kind of that old-timey history. Oh, there goes the sun behind the trees. Nice. So my training for my EMT class, like I said, the guy who ran it wanted to prove to the state of Michigan that distance learning was a viable option for education. Before this time, it was a no-go. It was a non-start issue. If you wanted a class, you had to get one sponsored in your local area. It was expensive, and you had to meet minimums, a minimum number of students. So this gentleman, and I won't use his name, had an idea of using what was called the telemed system. It's a communication system that doctors will use in hospital to talk to other hospitals. Digital, video. For the time, 21 years ago, it was state of the art. And he got approved by the state. So he doubled up. I think we did over 300 hours of classroom. We had, I want to say 50 or 60 clinical hours we had to do. Really wanted to drive home the importance and the education. So we went to go take the National Registry exam. We'd hit that out of the park. We did. We had an insane pass rate. I think it was in the high 90s. Everyone pretty much who passed the class was able to take the test and pass the test. It was unique. I talked to very few of the people from my EMT class, only a handful I keep in touch with to this day. One of them did turn out to be my roommate in college, who we both went to then go on and get our medics. It was interesting. Again, it's something I kind of just fell into, but I found I had a passion for it, a love for it. I actually still have my EMT book and my EMT notes. Let's get that better sunset going down there. That looks nice. You can see the top of my rabbit barn and my chicken coop. So we were, it was good times. I had my a female friend of mine. I wouldn't call her a girlfriend by any stretch of the imagination. Although when I was younger, I did ask her to marry me. I think I was like 8 or 9. Probably younger than that. Probably only like 5 or 6. I did ask her to marry me in kind of a cute little fashion, but she was also in there. She actually went on to go get more medically trained beyond paramedic. Good for her. But yeah, it was just really, it was a fun class. It piqued my interest. Then for paramedic, at the time, I was not a very good student. As far as high school goes, my EMT, I did a really good job. I scored all 80s and 90s, showed I was very proficient in it. But as far as high school goes, as my dad would say, I graduated summa cum barely. My grades were not great. Someone else joked that although I wasn't last in my class, I could definitely reach over and shake his hand. And the main reason was I didn't care for high school. It served no purpose. I didn't see any real reason to give a damn. You're learning stuff that you can identify quite quickly you're never going to use again in your life. So I just didn't care. So I was encouraged to maybe try the community program. There was after the success of the EMT program, they were going to try doing a community paramedic using the same system. But I kind of wanted out of the sleepy town that I grew up in and wanted to go to university, wanted to go to college to get that experience. So I applied to Lake Superior State University. At the time, they were ranked number 3 in the nation. They had an amazing pass rate on the National Registry exam. They were really good, aggressive school academy style. It was Monday through Thursday. You went to class from what felt like dawn to dusk, but most days was 8 a.m. to 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Some days, there was one day it was longer. It was 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. with labs and clinicals, or just labs, excuse me. Clinicals were Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. And you were told they didn't do Sundays. It was Fridays and Saturdays and half Thursdays. Sunday, the instructors would say, that's your day to get drunk and not think about paramedic. It was a very aggressive class. You had very little wiggle room. You had to apply and interview to get in. It was very, very intense. A lot of really heavy-hitting, hardcore information. And we covered a wide breadth and depth of many topics. I'll never forget the interview process. I was nervous as all get up because this is what I wanted to do. I did not want to take that community program. I really, really wanted to take this one at Lake State. Go and interview, and the head of the program was a man who weighed 350, 400 pounds. I introduced myself. He introduces himself, and he looks at me. He's like, well, you can call me by Professor so-and-so, but you could use my nickname as Big D because I'm a big boy. And like, you're sitting there trying to interview, trying to be serious, and I had to break out laughing. Like I couldn't take it. That was hilarious that he, introduced himself like that as kind of a kind of odd nickname, especially with just a high school student you're interviewing. I did successfully pass the interview, pass the entrance part, was accepted into the medic program. The first year of that I was at Lake State, I did a lot of my gen eds. I did a lot of my prep work for EMT, or for paramedic, excuse me. And then my second year is when I jumped into paramedic. Like I said, my roommate was also going through medic with me. It was very hard, very aggressive class. We lost 25%, I believe, the first semester. And it really was. You woke up, you went to bed, thinking, talking, trying to become a paramedic. They always told us first semester, you don't know what the hell you're doing, but early second semester, you need to be a medic. And they demand you start acting like it. During your simulations, during how you presented yourself in class, how you presented yourself on clinicals. They tell you the first semester you're working on it, second semester, you need to be a medic. You need to think it, you need to act it, you need to be it. I talked to a handful of the guys from my medic class, not a ton. Every now and then we'll bump into each other. I used to do it more when I was full-time on the rig. I'd bump into someone from the old medic class, shake hands and whatnot. Tell some stupid story that happened during the class, and then kind of be on our merry way. I absolutely loved the academy style. I highly recommend anyone else who's thinking about going, go to an academy style. This whole like once or twice a week for 18 months, nah. You're going to lose too much information. You're going to get bored of it. You're going to get burnt out of it. Just do the academy style if you have the choice. It'll suck. Mine sucked. It was the hardest program, the hardest class I've ever taken was my medic, for how much effort and time and expectations you were held up to. Not to mention the tests for your licensure are just insane. I went on to go get my bachelor's. I've had many other certifications, licenses, and trainings, some that last years long, where I'm training for years to get a certification. None were as hard as my medic. I remember after I did my medic, I was kind of not really sure what I wanted to do, so I kind of took another semester at college, getting some gen eds knocked out of the way, because I figured, if I do go on and get my bachelor's, I can just get some gen eds. That semester after medic was a joke. Don't get me wrong, I was taking 300 level classes, so I was taking those upper level classes, but compared to the expectations of medic, it was a joke. I breezed through them. One I drank through. It didn't have the same weight, the same bearing. Even when I went to go get my bachelor's, I kept telling myself, well, the next class will be harder. The next class will be harder. It wasn't. If you can complete medic, life gets simpler. Class gets simpler. This whole thing just gets easier. Learning, you have good processes. You can easily accomplish a lot of these other degrees or certifications. They become a joke when there's not that high expectation, high standards that almost every medic program I've seen gives their students. It is a lot of work. I have to admit, that's one of the things that makes me want to keep my medic. I suffered and worked hard for that. The hardest I've ever worked in my life was for medic. If nothing else, I want to renew my medic just for that reason alone, but all the work I put in. Unlike other healthcare fields, if you let your medic lapse or your EMT license lapse in Michigan, if it's lapsed for more than 3 months, you have to retake the entire program. So even though I have 20 years in, I teach EMS, I teach EMTs and paramedics, well studied. Apparently 3 months after my license lapses, I'm considered to have forgotten everything. Now compare that to other fields. If you're a nurse, you have up to 10 years to go back and renew your license. And even the renewal process is sometimes just taking the NCLEX, just taking the national certification exam, and you have it. So that weighs on me heavily. I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to just renew my license just so I have it, so I can still have that badge of honor. Because again, I highly doubt if I let it lapse, I'd go back and get it again. Not that I couldn't pass those tests, obviously, but it's a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication. And like I said, I could probably pass it again, no problem. But I don't want to lessen the accomplishment I did. I don't want to degrade what I've done, because it is amazing. A kid who graduated high school summa cum barely, bottom of his class, went on to get one of the highest marks at the university I passed at. Not the highest, not by any. There's really, really smart people in my class. Passed my national registry, first shot. I'm proud of what I've done. I've done a great accomplishment. I'd hate to let that go. Because again, the only way to get it back is to go back and redo the entire EMT and medic all over again. I'd have to do it all over. And I don't think I would, even if I really wanted it back. So as I'm sitting here thinking about that, weighs on my mind. I don't know. I don't want to give it up for that reason. I fought too hard for it. It's too grave an accomplishment to just let it go and potentially never be able to get it back again. Something to think about for me as I consider whether or not I'm going to renew my license after 20. I don't know. We'll see where we land. Anyway, hope everyone's doing good out there. Hope you're staying safe. We'll see you on the next one.